Early 1941, the vast, restless waters of the Atlantic were a theater of unseen warfare, a place where survival often hinged on a machine that seemed more like a floating lounge than a weapon of war. From the perspective of Luftwaffe intelligence officers, the Americans were naive, almost comically so, to deploy what they mockingly called the flying bathtub, the PBY Catalina. Sleek, long-winged, and bulbous, it skimmed the ocean like a seagull and carried the unmistakable air of civilian design. Yet beneath that seemingly gentle exterior lurked the capacity to alter the course of lives, fortunes, and even campaigns. At a time when Allied convoys were being torn apart by U-boats, the PBY Catalina would emerge not merely as a tool of reconnaissance or transport, but as a lifeline, a guardian angel in steel, fabric, and glass. The Germans, with their precision instruments and tactical arrogance, dismissed the Catalina. It was slow, unwieldy, and vulnerable, an easy target for any trained pilot who caught it over open waters. Intelligence briefings filled with photographs of the aircraft, taken from angles designed to emphasize its wide wingspan and clumsy underbelly, elicited laughter in Berlin. Mocking annotations suggested that American ingenuity had finally hit its nadir. Yet the very qualities the Germans derided would prove to be its strength, a combination of endurance, adaptability, and ingenuity that no Axis calculator could anticipate. The story of the Catalina did not begin with the war, but with a visionary design team had consolidated aircraft in San Diego, California. They imagined an aircraft that could traverse oceans, land and take off on the water, and endure days in flight without the need for immediate refueling or resupply. It was a machine designed not for spectacle, but for persistence, for the kind of quiet endurance that, when properly applied, could tip the scales in moments of crisis. Early prototypes were painstakingly tested, each wing stress calculation and hull curvature scrutinized. To withstand the punishing force of ocean waves, test pilots, aware of the skepticism surrounding their craft, pushed the aircraft through trials in heavy seas, turbulence, and variable weather conditions. They reported not just on its ability to fly, but on its grace and stability on water, the subtle way it absorbed wave impact, and the surprising speed it could muster when fully loaded. The Americans did not intend for the Catalina to dazzle or inspire awe in the conventional sense. It was meant to function flawlessly, to be reliable under circumstances that would cripple ordinary aircraft. And in that focus on practical resilience lay the seeds of its eventual legend. By late 1941, the United States was edging ever closer to full engagement in the war. Even as Europe was engulfed in conflict, the Atlantic remained a perilous corridor, patrolled by German U-boats that hunted merchant convoys with lethal precision. Ships disappeared beneath the waves, entire crews lost to the icy embrace of the sea. Standard naval procedures had proved insufficient, and conventional air patrols were limited by fuel, range, and vulnerability. It was within this context that the Catalina's virtues began to be fully appreciated. Capable of staying aloft for more than 12 hours, armed with a modest but effective complement of defensive weapons, and equipped with state-of-the-art radar for the era, the Catalina became the eyes and ears of the Allied maritime forces. Its long wings allowed for extended patrols. Its hull allowed for rescue operations impossible for land-based planes. In one mission, a single Catalina would scan hundreds of square miles of open ocean, locate stricken ships, and coordinate rescue operations that would save dozens of lives, all while remaining vulnerable to enemy attack. Yet, remarkably, its record demonstrated a resilience that would confound German planners. In naval intelligence reports, the term ghost ship began to appear frequently, referring to the Catalinas that arrived where they were least expected and departed with as much quiet efficiency. The Germans, meanwhile, were making a critical error in underestimating what they considered a slow, cumbersome platform. Their operational doctrine emphasized speed, firepower, and aggressive engagement. An aircraft such as the Catalina, with its lumbering takeoff, long silhouette, and comparatively light defensive armament, did not fit any pre-existing threat model. It could not outmaneuver a Messerschmitt in a dogfight. It could not absorb the kind of punishment that a heavily armed bomber could endure. Yet the Germans failed to account for something far more potent than raw performance numbers. The Catalina's strategic endurance and versatility, able to ferry troops, conduct reconnaissance, drop mines, or execute search and rescue missions. It could be deployed in ways the enemy could not predict. By the time a Luftwaffe pilot realized the aircraft was no ordinary transport, it was already accomplishing tasks that had a tangible effect on the survival and morale of Allied forces. Entire convoys, previously considered doomed, found themselves shepherded across hostile waters by these unassuming machines. In this sense, the Germans' mockery reflected not insight, but hubris, a failure to anticipate that efficiency and resilience could outweigh sheer speed or firepower. The operational history of the Catalina is replete with instances that would later enter into legend. In early 1942, following the fall of the Philippines, numerous survivors of sunken ships were adrift in lifeboats, exposed to the elements and despair. Catalinas, flying low and slow across the waves, located these men with uncanny precision. Pilots would descend perilously close to the ocean's surface to coordinate rescues, sometimes deploying inflatable rafts or guiding submarines to the scene. In one mission, a single Catalina crew rescued over 70 personnel, a feat accomplished without the benefit of advanced GPS or modern communication equipment. Every successful rescue added to the mystique of the aircraft, and word of these exploits began to filter through both Allied and Axis intelligence channels. German reports initially dismissed them as exaggerations, attributing success to luck or coincidence. Yet, as casualty reports from convoys consistently contradicted their predictions, the reality of the Catalina's impact became impossible to ignore. The technological advantages embedded within the Catalina were subtle but critical. Its twin engines were not the most powerful in the sky, yet they were extraordinarily reliable, able to operate continuously over long stretches without overheating or failure. Its hull design minimized drag on water takeoffs while maximizing stability in rough seas. Radar technology, though primitive by modern standards, provided an unprecedented ability to detect submarines and surface vessels at distances previously unattainable for patrol aircraft. Each mission combined these elements into a complex dance of calculation and execution. Pilots had to manage fuel consumption meticulously, navigate by sight and instruments over featureless ocean expanses, and remain alert to sudden threats from enemy fighters or anti-aircraft fire. Their success depended not just on individual skill, but on the seamless integration of machine, crew, and strategy. By mid-1942, the pattern was unmistakable. Convoys that included Catalina support experienced significantly lower losses than those without. Merchant ships that might have been abandoned to the depths found themselves shepherded safely to port. German submarine captains, who had previously celebrated near impunity, began to report frustration and confusion. Patterns emerged that defied their expectations. The slow aircraft arrived, where they had calculated no opposition, and sometimes seemingly without effort. Intercepted submarines attempting to surface under cover of night or poor visibility. The calculations that once seemed to guarantee German dominance over the Atlantic were no longer reliable. A single Catalina could alter the tactical landscape of hundreds of square miles of ocean. Its pilots were not seeking glory. They were executing a mission with quiet precision. Each decision weighted with the lives of those they sought to save. And in that mission, the aircraft transcended its humble appearance, becoming a symbol of innovation and endurance that challenged enemy assumptions. By the summer of 1942, the full scope of the Catalina's capabilities had begun to reshape the Atlantic theater. Allied Naval Command quickly recognized that the aircraft's utility extended far beyond reconnaissance or simple convoy escort. It could conduct prolonged patrols over areas previously considered inaccessible, relay critical intelligence about enemy movements, and, perhaps most importantly, execute life-saving rescue operations with a reliability that no other platform could match. In one particularly harrowing instance, a convoy bound for Britain was ambushed by a wolf pack of German U-boats. Ships were being torn apart, the horizon dotted with smoke and flames. As panic threatened to overwhelm both crews and escort vessels, Catalinas appeared on the scene, their long wings slicing through the morning haze. Pilots executed precision maneuvers over the wreckage, coordinating with destroyers to isolate threats and guide survivors to safety. Each sortie demonstrated not only technical proficiency, but the strategic foresight of deploying a versatile and enduring aircraft where it mattered most. Slowly, reluctantly, even the Germans began to register the significance of what they had dismissed as a cumbersome, flying bathtub in naval war rooms thousands of miles away. Allied officers documented every successful mission, meticulously noting the number of lives saved, enemy encounters disrupted, and the patterns that could be leveraged in future operations. The Catalina became a force multiplier, a way to extend the reach of Allied naval power without increasing risk to other, more vulnerable assets. Unlike faster, more heavily armed aircraft that relied on brute force or intimidation, the Catalina's strength lay in endurance, intelligence gathering, and adaptability. It demanded a different kind of respect from both pilots and planners, one that valued persistence and calculation as much as audacity and speed. Every successful deployment validated the early design decisions. made at Consolidated Aircraft in San Diego. Every rescued crewman reinforced the truth that appearances could be deceiving. The aircraft mocked as slow and fragile was, in fact, a decisive instrument of life and strategy. The Germans, observing these developments from afar, were caught in a growing dilemma. Their initial mockery had been rooted in a combination of underestimation and an over-reliance on conventional metrics of aerial dominance, speed, firepower, and maneuverability. Yet in the harsh, unpredictable theater of the Atlantic, these factors alone proved insufficient. The Catalina, with its unique combination of range, versatility, and operational stability, challenged the German model of aerial superiority. Reports from Luftwaffe reconnaissance, initially tinged with skepticism and amusement, began to reveal a pattern too consistent to ignore. Convoys that should have been easy prey were surviving. Submarines were being forced to submerge prematurely, and critical intelligence about German movements was being relayed with unprecedented speed and accuracy. The aircraft's apparent weaknesses, the very characteristics that had made it a target of derision, were, paradoxically, the elements that allowed it to excel under conditions where traditional warplanes faltered. By late 1942, the operational doctrine surrounding the Catalina had evolved into something more than reactive strategy. Pilots were now trained to exploit the aircraft's endurance and versatility fully, using it to anticipate enemy movements rather than merely respond to them. Crews learned to operate over vast stretches of ocean with minimal support, navigating through storms and fog, leveraging every bit of their aircraft's unique capabilities. On more than one occasion, Catalina crews located German U-boats attempting to shadow convoys under the cover of darkness. Using a combination of radar, visual observation, and careful coordination with nearby naval vessels, they forced the submarines to dive, delaying or entirely preventing attacks that might have resulted in catastrophic losses. These actions, seemingly small in isolation, cumulatively saved thousands of lives and shifted the strategic balance in the Allies' favor. The aircraft's contribution was not limited to the Atlantic. In the Pacific theater, the Catalina's long range and water landing capabilities allowed it to operate across vast expanses of ocean, scouting for Japanese fleets, conducting search and rescue missions for downed airmen, and performing anti-submarine patrols in areas that were previously unreachable. In every instance, the aircraft demonstrated the same quiet efficiency and adaptability that had confounded German planners in the Atlantic. Pilots learned to leverage its endurance to create operational patterns that were nearly impossible for enemy forces to predict. Convoys and missions that might once have been considered perilous became feasible, giving Allied commanders a strategic flexibility previously unattainable. The flying bathtub was no longer a joke. It had become an indispensable tool, a machine whose worth was measured not in the speed of its flight but in the countless lives it preserved and the missions it enabled. Perhaps the most striking testament to the Catalina's impact came not from technology alone, but from the human stories intertwined with its operations. Crew members recounting missions in diaries and after-action reports speak of the aircraft as a guardian angel, arriving just in time to pull sailors from the sea or guide wounded ships to safety. The psychological effect on both Allied and enemy forces was profound. For Allied sailors and airmen, the presence of a Catalina on patrol instilled a sense of security and hope, a belief that survival was possible even in the most desperate situations. Conversely, German intelligence and U-boat crews began to recognize that their traditional advantages were being mitigated by a platform they had once mocked. This shift in perception altered behavior. Commanders became cautious, calculating, hesitant, as the unpredictability and reach of the Catalina disrupted their previously reliable assumptions. The engineering behind the Catalina, though less glamorous than that of front-line fighters or bombers, was remarkable in its foresight. Twin radial engines were optimized not for raw speed, but for reliability and longevity, able to endure long hours of flight over hostile waters. The hull's hydrodynamic design allowed for smooth water landings even in choppy seas, minimizing risk to both aircraft and crew. Radar and navigation equipment, though primitive by modern standards, represented cutting-edge technology for their era, extending the reach and effectiveness of each mission. Every component, from fuel efficiency to crew ergonomics, was carefully considered to ensure that the aircraft could operate effectively in isolated, high-stakes environments. These design choices, subtle yet profound, combined to create a machine that was greater than the sum of its parts, a testament to human ingenuity, patience, and strategic vision. Operational deployment of the Catalina was equally innovative. In addition to standard convoy patrols and search and rescue missions, specialized squadrons were formed to undertake long-duration reconnaissance, sometimes spanning over 12 hours of continuous flight. Crews were trained not only in piloting, but in the delicate art of coordinating with naval and air forces across multiple theaters of operation. Communication protocols, emergency procedures, and fuel management strategies were honed to perfection, allowing crews to maximize the aircraft's potential while minimizing risk. In practice, these squadrons became force multipliers, capable of influencing engagements across hundreds of square miles and saving lives that might otherwise have been lost to the unforgiving ocean. It was during these missions that the Catalina's reputation as a life-saving aircraft truly solidified. Dozens of documented rescues illustrate the aircraft's versatility and the skill of its crews. Survivors of shipwrecks often reported that the sudden appearance of a Catalina on the horizon was their first glimpse of hope, a signal that help had arrived. Crews would execute complex maneuvers to drop lifeboats, deploy emergency supplies, or guide ships and submarines to precise locations for rescue operations. Each mission required meticulous planning, courage, and a nuanced understanding of the aircraft's unique capabilities. The German perception of the Catalina as a slow, ineffective machine was increasingly at odds with the reality unfolding across the oceans of World War II. The impact of the Catalina on morale cannot be overstated. For sailors adrift in lifeboats, battered by storms and weary from the relentless violence of submarine attacks, the appearance of a Catalina was not merely a technological intervention. It was a symbol of hope. Its long wings, stretched wide over the ocean, represented the reach and persistence of a force that would not abandon those in peril. Crew members recount moments when exhausted survivors, on the verge of despair, were guided to safety by the aircraft's precise navigation and strategic positioning. Pilots often descended low over the waves, adjusting speed and altitude to ensure visual contact with survivors, signaling them, and directing rescue vessels. Each successful operation reinforced the aircraft's reputation and the psychological advantage it provided the Allies. German U-boat commanders, initially dismissive of the Catalina, began to notice a disturbing trend. Convoys that had been easy targets were increasingly difficult to intercept. The slow-flying boat appeared at unexpected locations, delaying attacks, forcing submarines to remain submerged longer, and thereby reducing their operational effectiveness. Reports from Axis intelligence noted a consistent pattern. The aircraft was not vulnerable to the kinds of conventional attacks that would normally cripple reconnaissance or transport planes. Its ability to loiter, combined with strategic placement and coordination with naval assets, rendered traditional German tactics less effective. The Catalina, previously mocked, had become a disruptive force, shifting the balance of operational power in subtle but consequential ways. In the Pacific, the Catalina's role expanded to include long-range reconnaissance across islands and enemy positions, often in regions devoid of friendly airfields. Its ability to land on water meant that even remote rescues were possible. Pilots developed innovative strategies, such as positioning the aircraft near downed pilots or stranded crews, providing not only immediate aid, but also relaying critical intelligence to nearby Allied bases. One documented instance involved a Catalina crew locating a Japanese patrol boat, operating in waters considered secure, forcing its crew to abandon mission objectives. Another involved rescuing airmen stranded on a small island, then ferrying them safely across hundreds of miles of open ocean back to friendly territory. These missions were perilous. Navigational errors could be fatal, enemy aircraft were a constant threat, and mechanical issues could leave crews stranded. Yet the Catalina's design and the skill of its crews turned these hazards into manageable challenges. The aircraft's endurance and reliability became a tactical asset. Pilots were trained to operate under extreme fatigue, often flying missions exceeding 12 hours without relief. Navigation required a combination of dead reckoning, celestial observation, and radio communication, demanding constant attention and coordination. Radar operators learned to detect enemy submarines and surface vessels at ranges previously unattainable, providing critical intelligence that informed the broader Allied naval strategy. These capabilities allowed commanders to anticipate enemy movements, redirect convoys, and initiate rescue operations before disaster could strike. In effect, the Catalina functioned as a strategic extension of command, not merely an observer of events, but a proactive agent in shaping outcomes. By late 1942, reports from both the Atlantic and Pacific theaters were beginning to accumulate, painting a picture of an aircraft whose impact exceeded expectations. Statistical analyses revealed measurable reductions in convoy losses, increased survival rates for stranded personnel, and consistent disruption of enemy operations. Allied planners began to recognize the potential for the Catalina to influence the broader war effort. not only as a rescue platform, but as a versatile tool capable of reconnaissance, anti-submarine warfare, and limited offensive operations. This recognition led to a prioritization of production, training, and deployment, ensuring that Catalinas were available where they could exert maximum strategic influence. Despite these successes, the aircraft was not without its challenges. Its relatively slow speed made it vulnerable to enemy fighters if caught unescorted. Pilots had to rely on careful route planning, timing, and coordination with faster aircraft to avoid engagement. Maintenance crews faced the unique demands of servicing a plane designed for both air and water operations, requiring specialized knowledge of hull integrity, engine performance under extended loads, and corrosion prevention in saltwater environments. Fuel management was critical, particularly on long-range missions, where even small miscalculations could result in disaster. The complexity of operations did not diminish the Catalina's effectiveness. Rather, it underscored the skill, training, and discipline of the crews who operated it. The German perspective, meanwhile, continued to evolve. Once the mockery subsided, Axis intelligence began issuing cautious assessments of the Catalina, recognizing that its operational endurance and versatility could not be easily countered with conventional tactics. U-boat commanders were forced to adjust patrol patterns, prioritize evasion, and account for the unexpected presence of long-range patrol aircraft in areas previously considered safe. Luftwaffe pilots, previously confident in their ability to intercept and destroy slower aircraft, found that Catalinas often operated beyond their reach, leveraging endurance and strategic placement to avoid confrontation, while still fulfilling mission objectives. This recalibration of German tactics represented a subtle but meaningful shift in the dynamics of naval warfare. In addition to its operational role, the Catalina played a key part in shaping Allied strategic thinking. Its success reinforced the importance of endurance, versatility, and technological integration in modern warfare. Commanders came to understand that superiority was not solely measured by speed or firepower, but by the ability to sustain operations, adapt to unpredictable environments, and preserve lives while achieving strategic objectives. This shift in thinking influenced the design, deployment, and utilization of future aircraft, shaping the trajectory of aerial and naval operations throughout the war. The human element of Catalina operations cannot be overstated. Pilots and crew members formed tight-knit units, relying on trust, communication, and shared expertise to execute missions under high-stakes conditions. Accounts from surviving crew members describe moments of intense pressure, where split-second decisions determined life or death outcomes. The aircraft's forgiving design allowed for recovery from minor errors, but its operational success was ultimately dependent on the professionalism and skill of its human operators. This combination of engineering excellence and human capability created a synergy that amplified the Catalina's impact far beyond what raw specifications might suggest. By early 1943, the Catalina had cemented its reputation as a critical component of Allied maritime strategy. Its presence altered the calculus of naval engagements, forced adjustments in enemy tactics, and provided a lifeline to countless sailors and airmen. Reports from various theaters highlighted instances where the aircraft's endurance, precision, and reliability turned the tide of potentially disastrous situations. Each mission contributed to a growing narrative that redefined what a reconnaissance or patrol aircraft could achieve, blurring the line between combat support and life-saving intervention. The Germans' initial mockery, based on superficial metrics of performance, was now confronted with the stark reality of operational excellence under challenging conditions. Even in the face of technological limitations, the Catalina consistently exceeded expectations. Its ability to operate in adverse weather, conduct long-duration missions, and integrate with naval and aerial assets made it indispensable. Crews learned to exploit its unique features, such as water landing capability, extended fuel capacity, and radar-assisted reconnaissance, to achieve outcomes that would have been impossible for conventional aircraft. These missions required not only technical proficiency, but also creativity, adaptability, and a deep understanding of both environmental and enemy variables. The result was a body of operational experience that would inform tactics and doctrine for years to come. As 1943 progressed, the strategic deployment of Catalinas became increasingly sophisticated. Commanders began integrating the aircraft into complex operational plans that combined reconnaissance, convoy protection, and targeted rescue operations. In one notable example, a squadron was tasked with providing extended coverage over a convoy traveling through the North Atlantic, an area notorious for sudden storms, treacherous currents, and hidden U-boat patrols. Pilots meticulously plotted their flight paths to maximize visibility, while minimizing exposure to enemy aircraft, ensuring that the convoy remained under constant observation. Radar operators scanned the ocean for signs of submerged submarines, while radio operators maintained continuous communication with nearby destroyers. The coordination required was extraordinary, yet the Catalina excelled under these conditions, providing both actionable intelligence and rapid response rescue capability. The aircraft's long-range capability allowed it to operate in sectors previously considered unreachable for standard patrols. German commanders, who had relied on the ocean's vastness as a form of natural defense, were forced to reconsider their assumptions. U-boat operations, once highly effective, were increasingly constrained by the unpredictable presence of Catalinas. Submarines had to surface less frequently to recharge batteries, reducing their offensive flexibility. Commanders had to account for the aircraft's endurance and potential for prolonged surveillance, fundamentally altering their strategic calculus. The Catalina's ability to maintain continuous coverage over vast distances created a psychological as well as tactical advantage. The mere presence of the aircraft disrupted enemy operations before a shot was ever fired. The rescue missions undertaken by the Catalina crews were often dramatic and dangerous. In one incident, a freighter had been torpedoed and left stranded in icy waters. Crew members clung to lifeboats, facing not only the threat of enemy action, but also the merciless Atlantic weather. A Catalina arrived, its pilots skillfully maneuvering to drop supplies and coordinate the approach of nearby escort vessels. The crew of the freighter described the experience as miraculous, emphasizing the combination of skill, timing, and mechanical reliability that made the operation possible. Each such mission reinforced the aircraft's reputation and demonstrated the profound impact that endurance and versatility could have in life-or-death scenarios. The aircraft's role in intelligence gathering also evolved. Beyond locating enemy ships and submarines, Catalina crews collected data on weather patterns, shipping lanes, and enemy movements, feeding this information back to Allied command centers. This intelligence allowed for more precise planning of convoy routes, air patrol schedules, and coordinated attacks on enemy supply lines. The Catalina became not only a life-saving tool, but a strategic instrument, shaping the course of engagements long before they occurred. Its contributions were cumulative, gradually eroding the operational advantages that the Germans had previously relied upon. German observers, who initially dismissed the aircraft as a novelty, began to acknowledge its effectiveness in official reports. Analysts noted that its presence significantly increased the survival rate of convoys and hindered U-boat operations. Capture documentation and post-war interviews reveal a growing respect among German commanders, tempered by frustration. Their initial assumptions that speed, firepower, and maneuverability were the sole determinants of aerial success were challenged by the Catalina's endurance, versatility, and innovative use in multifaceted missions. The aircraft's unconventional strengths forced a re-evaluation of tactical doctrine. On both sides of the conflict, training for Catalina crews was intense, reflecting the aircraft's demanding operational requirements. Pilots needed not only standard navigation and flight skills, but also specialized knowledge of maritime operations, radar systems, and rescue protocols. They were taught to read the sea and sky, anticipate enemy actions, and execute precise maneuvers in high-stakes conditions. Crew cohesion was critical. Each member had a distinct role, and mistakes could be fatal. Radio operators coordinated with naval vessels, engineers monitored engine performance, and radar operators identified threats and targets. The success of each mission depended on the seamless integration of these roles, demonstrating that technological capability alone was insufficient without skilled human operators. The Catalina's endurance also enabled innovative tactics, such as shadowing enemy convoys for extended periods, providing continuous updates to Allied command. This capability allowed for preemptive action, such as rerouting convoys, organizing ambushes, or coordinating attacks by faster aircraft and naval forces. The aircraft's ability to remain operational in adverse conditions, storms, fog, and darkness meant that the Allies could maintain situational awareness in theaters previously considered uncontrollable. German forces, meanwhile, struggled to adapt, finding that their previous advantages were neutralized not by brute force, but by the strategic application of a slower, longer-lasting platform. Beyond the immediate tactical and operational advantages, the Catalina had a profound psychological impact. Allied sailors and airmen, knowing that a Catalina patrol was nearby, often experienced a renewed sense of hope and security. Survivors of attacks reported that the sight of the aircraft, with its distinctive long wings and reliable presence, was a morale booster in moments of extreme stress. Conversely, German forces experienced increasing uncertainty and caution. Submarine commanders delayed actions. Surface vessels were more conservative in their movements. And Luftwaffe pilots faced challenges in intercepting or engaging the slow but persistent aircraft. The Catalina's endurance and reliability created a force multiplier effect, extending its influence beyond direct engagements. The integration of the Catalina into broader Allied strategy demonstrated an understanding of asymmetric advantage. While the aircraft could not match fighters or bombers in speed or armament, its ability to sustain operations over long periods, operate in diverse environments, and perform multiple roles simultaneously made it indispensable. Its presence allowed the Allies to extend their operational reach, apply pressure on enemy forces, and reduce the risk to more vulnerable assets. This strategic flexibility, combined with the aircraft's life-saving capabilities, made the Catalina a symbol of innovation and adaptability in warfare. By mid-1943, the cumulative effect of Catalina operations was evident. Convoy losses were decreasing, rescue operations had saved thousands of lives, and intelligence collection had improved the planning and execution of naval and air operations. German forces were forced to reconsider their tactics, acknowledging that their previous assumptions about control of the Atlantic were no longer valid. The aircraft's endurance, versatility, and reliability allowed the Allies to operate with confidence, maintain strategic flexibility, and capitalize on opportunities that had previously been inaccessible. In many ways, the Catalina exemplified the principle that innovation and adaptability could outweigh conventional measures of superiority. The aircraft's design also facilitated its remarkable operational record. Twin engines provided redundancy and reliability, allowing long missions even in the event of engine trouble. The hull and float design allowed for safe water landings, enabling rescues and forward deployment operations. Crew compartments were designed to accommodate extended flights, with provisions for navigation, communication, and emergency procedures. The combination of engineering foresight, operational strategy, and human skill created a platform that could perform a diverse array of missions. With extraordinary effectiveness, each successful operation validated the original design philosophy and reinforced the strategic value of endurance and versatility in aviation. By late 1943, the Catalina had become a central element in the Allies' integrated maritime strategy, bridging the gap between reconnaissance, anti-submarine warfare, and life-saving operations. The aircraft's operational flexibility allowed commanders to conduct simultaneous missions in multiple theaters, maximizing the impact of limited resources. In one striking example, a squadron of Catalinas was dispatched to patrol a critical convoy route in the North Atlantic, while simultaneously monitoring the approaches to key naval bases. Pilots and crew meticulously coordinated to ensure that no gaps appeared in the coverage, using radio communication to relay sightings and course adjustments in real time. This level of coordination, unprecedented for patrol aircraft of the era, demonstrated the strategic potential of endurance combined with reliable human execution. Catalina crews often faced extreme environmental challenges, storms, fog, and turbulent seas tested both their skill and the aircraft's engineering limits. Yet the design of the Catalina, with its robust hull, long-range fuel capacity, and stable flight characteristics, allowed crews to conduct missions that would have grounded other aircraft. Navigation required constant vigilance, dead reckoning, celestial observations, and emerging radio navigation technologies were employed in concert to ensure accurate positioning. Radar operators extended the aircraft's reach, detecting enemy submarines and surface vessels long before visual contact was possible. This combination of technology and skill allowed the Catalina to operate as both a sentinel and a rapid response platform, transforming the tactical landscape of maritime warfare. The psychological effect on Allied sailors and airmen was profound. Those adrift in lifeboats or stranded on remote islands often reported a renewed sense of hope. Upon sighting a Catalina, the aircraft's arrival signaled that their plight had been recognized and that help was imminent. For Allied naval commanders, the presence of Catalinas provided confidence that convoys were under constant observation, reducing anxiety about enemy submarines and allowing for more aggressive routing and operational planning. Conversely, German forces experienced increasing uncertainty. Submarine commanders had to factor in the prolonged surveillance capabilities of Catalinas, while surface ships adjusted their movements to avoid detection. Even Luftwaffe pilots, who might otherwise have engaged unescorted patrol aircraft, were deterred by the Catalina's endurance and the potential for coordinated Allied responses. One of the most remarkable aspects of the Catalina's operational history was its adaptability to emerging threats. When Japanese forces introduced new tactics in the Pacific, Catalina squadrons were able to modify patrol routes, landing strategies, and engagement protocols to maintain effectiveness. In instances where personnel were stranded on islands under threat of enemy capture, Catalinas were dispatched to deliver supplies, evacuate survivors, and relay intelligence back to command centers. This adaptability underscored the importance of endurance not merely as a measure of flight time, but as a strategic asset that allowed commanders to respond dynamically to unforeseen challenges. Each successful mission reinforced the notion that innovation in aviation was as much about operational integration as it was about raw performance. Maintenance and logistical support were equally critical to sustaining Catalina operations. Crews underwent rigorous training to ensure that the aircraft remained operational under demanding conditions. Ground personnel specialized in managing the unique challenges posed by the Catalinas. Dual air and water design, including corrosion prevention, hull integrity inspections, and engine maintenance under extended load conditions. Fuel management was crucial, as long-range missions required precise calculations to avoid shortages. The integration of maintenance, navigation, and operational planning exemplified a holistic approach to warfare, where the effectiveness of technology was amplified by human expertise and procedural rigor. German intelligence, initially dismissive of the Catalina, was forced to recalibrate its assessments. Reports highlighted the aircraft's endurance, versatility, and effectiveness in both reconnaissance and life-saving operations. U-boat commanders were compelled to alter patrol patterns, maintain submerged positions for extended periods, and coordinate movements to minimize detection risk. Luftwaffe pilots faced unexpected challenges when attempting to intercept slow but persistent aircraft operating in unpredictable locations. These adjustments imposed operational constraints on German forces, creating opportunities for Allied convoys and contributing to the gradual erosion of Axis control over strategic maritime routes. The introduction of radar technology aboard Catalinas significantly enhanced their operational impact. Radar allowed crews to detect enemy submarines and surface vessels beyond visual range, providing critical intelligence that informed strategic decisions. This technological advantage complemented the aircraft's endurance, enabling prolonged surveillance and the coordination of Allied responses to emerging threats. Pilots learned to interpret radar data effectively, combining it with visual observation and navigation skills to execute precise maneuvers. The integration of radar transformed the Catalina from a reconnaissance platform into a proactive instrument of maritime dominance. The human element remained central to the Catalina's effectiveness. Crew cohesion, communication, and skill were indispensable in ensuring mission success. Pilots relied on engineers to monitor engine performance, radar operators to identify threats, and radio operators to coordinate with naval assets. Mistakes could have catastrophic consequences, particularly during rescue missions or extended patrols over hostile waters. The aircraft's forgiving design allowed for recovery from minor errors, but the operational record consistently demonstrated that the most successful missions were executed by disciplined, well-trained crews who could integrate multiple streams of information under extreme pressure. By early 1944, the Catalina's impact was measurable. Convoy losses decreased significantly, survival rates for stranded personnel increased, and intelligence collection became more effective. The aircraft's endurance allowed for continuous coverage over critical sea lanes, while its versatility enabled rapid response to emergencies and adaptive deployment in dynamic operational environments. German forces, confronted with these capabilities, struggled to maintain the tactical advantages they had previously enjoyed. Submarines had to operate with heightened caution. Surface vessels adjusted their routes to avoid detection, and Luftwaffe pilots were increasingly constrained in their ability to interdict patrol aircraft. The Catalina had effectively reshaped the operational environment across multiple theaters. The broader strategic implications of the Catalina's success were profound. By enabling extended reconnaissance and life-saving operations, the aircraft contributed to the Allies' ability to maintain operational flexibility and initiative. Commanders could plan complex missions with the confidence that key routes were monitored and that personnel in distress could be rescued. This capability not only saved lives, but also preserved trained personnel who could continue contributing to the war effort. In effect, the Catalina's endurance and versatility amplified the impact of Allied strategic planning, allowing forces to operate more aggressively and effectively across multiple fronts. The aircraft's adaptability extended to offensive operations as well. While not designed as a fighter, Catalinas were occasionally armed for defensive purposes and could harass enemy vessels or submarines when necessary. This dual capability rescue and limited offensive engagement added an additional layer of complexity for German planners who could not predict whether a Catalina would merely observe, intervene, or engage directly. This unpredictability created operational friction, forcing the enemy to allocate resources defensively and reducing the overall effectiveness of their offensive operations. The psychological dimension of the Catalina's impact cannot be overstated. Sailors and airmen facing the vast, unforgiving expanse of the Atlantic or Pacific Oceans often reported feelings of isolation and helplessness. When these personnel spotted the unmistakable silhouette of a Catalina on the horizon, a wave of relief often washed over them. The aircraft symbolized hope, survival, and the competence of Allied operations. Crew members developed techniques to signal the Catalina, using flares or mirrors to attract attention, knowing that every sighting increased their chances of rescue. This reassurance was not merely emotional. It had tangible operational consequences. Morale among crews improved, survival rates increased, and confidence in Allied command structures solidified, reinforcing the symbiotic relationship between technological capability and human psychology. The aircraft's enduring operational performance also had strategic consequences. Its long-range patrolling ability meant that German supply lines and naval operations faced near constant observation. Submarines had to adopt more cautious approaches, often remaining submerged for longer periods and limiting offensive actions. Surface vessels adjusted their courses to reduce exposure to surveillance, frequently taking longer routes that delayed operations. Luftwaffe pilots, tasked with reconnaissance and interception, were forced to reconsider their engagement strategies, as the Catalina's endurance and radar-equipped presence made ambushes more difficult to execute. The cumulative effect was a gradual constriction of Axis operational freedom, illustrating how endurance and reliability could shape the broader tactical and strategic landscape. In addition to operational advantages, the Catalina's versatility made it indispensable in multifaceted missions. Crews could transition seamlessly between reconnaissance, anti-submarine patrols, and rescue operations, often within the same mission. In one case, a squadron identified a submarine threat, relayed coordinates to nearby destroyers, and then immediately shifted focus to rescuing survivors from a torpedoed vessel. The aircraft's design combining long-range fuel capacity, reliable twin engines, and amphibious landing capability enabled this flexibility. Crew members were trained to manage rapid role transitions, coordinating with naval and air assets while maintaining situational awareness. The result was a platform that could exert influence across multiple operational domains, far exceeding what traditional aircraft could achieve. The introduction of radar technology aboard the Catalina marked a turning point in anti-submarine warfare. Radar operators were trained to interpret subtle signals, identifying periscopes, surfaced submarines, and enemy ships at ranges far exceeding visual detection. This early warning capability allowed naval commanders to preemptively adjust convoy routes, deploy escort vessels strategically, and reduce vulnerability to U-boat attacks. The integration of radar with the Catalina's endurance created a continuous operational presence that effectively neutralized many previously exploitable gaps in Allied maritime defense. German forces, encountering this persistent surveillance, faced operational dilemmas that limited their tactical options and reduced their effectiveness. Training protocols for Catalina crews were rigorous and comprehensive. Pilots mastered navigation across vast, featureless ocean expanses, relying on a combination of dead reckoning, celestial navigation, and radio signals. Radar operators interpreted electronic readings under high-pressure conditions, while engineers monitored engine performance, ensuring reliability throughout extended flights. Radio operators maintained continuous communication with both naval and air command, coordinating complex multi-unit operations. The interdependence of crew members fostered a culture of precision, discipline, and trust, which was crucial for mission success. Each mission's outcome depended not only on the aircraft's capabilities, but also on the seamless execution of human roles, highlighting the critical synergy between technology and skill. Maintenance and logistical support remained key factors in sustaining operational readiness. Catalinas required specialized attention due to their amphibious design, dual-engine configuration, and extended operational range. Ground crews implemented corrosion prevention protocols, engine monitoring routines, and hull inspections to ensure long-term reliability. Fuel management was critical. Long-range missions demanded precise calculations to avoid mid-mission shortages. The holistic integration of engineering, operational planning, and crew performance demonstrated the importance of system-wide coordination. In achieving strategic objectives, the aircraft's enduring success was not solely a function of design, but also of meticulous preparation and maintenance practices that enabled it to perform consistently under demanding conditions. German intelligence gradually recognized the Catalina's effectiveness, particularly in limiting U-boat operations and increasing the survival rate of convoys. Analysts noted the aircraft's extended surveillance capabilities and its role in coordinating multi-domain operations. Submarine commanders, once confident in their ability to exploit gaps in Allied patrol coverage, were forced to modify tactics, remain submerged longer, and adopt more cautious approaches. Surface vessels adjusted course and timing to minimize detection risk, while Luftwaffe units faced increasing difficulty in intercepting or tracking slow but persistent aircraft. The Catalina's operational endurance effectively imposed strategic constraints on German forces, demonstrating that technological innovation could achieve outsized effects, even without traditional offensive armament. The psychological dimension of the Catalina's impact extended to German forces as well. U-boat crews and surface vessel operators understood that the aircraft could observe and respond over vast distances, complicating operational planning. The persistent presence of Catalinas generated uncertainty, forcing enemy commanders to account for surveillance in every decision. Luftwaffe pilots, aware of the aircraft's endurance and radar capabilities, were hesitant to engage. recognizing that interception could be costly and uncertain. This strategic pressure, imposed by endurance and reliability rather than sheer firepower, exemplified how innovation in operational design could shape adversary behavior and constrain enemy options. Catalina operations in the Pacific Theater further demonstrated the aircraft's versatility. Pilots conducted extended patrols over vast ocean expanses, monitored enemy shipping lanes, and coordinated with naval forces to protect Allied supply routes. Rescue missions were particularly critical in this theater, where personnel stranded on remote islands faced high risk of capture or death. Catalinas delivered supplies, evacuated survivors, and relayed intelligence back to command centers, showcasing their ability to adapt to diverse operational challenges. Each successful mission reinforced the aircraft's reputation as a reliable, life-saving, and strategically valuable platform capable of influencing multiple facets of warfare. The strategic integration of the Catalina demonstrated the broader principle of asymmetric advantage. While it lacked the speed and armament of contemporary fighters or bombers, its endurance, versatility, and operational integration created value far beyond its physical characteristics. Commanders leveraged these strengths to maintain situational awareness, protect personnel, and apply pressure on enemy operations. The Catalina's effectiveness stemmed from its ability to operate where and when needed, to support multiple mission objectives simultaneously, and to integrate seamlessly into broader strategic plans. This approach underscored the importance of endurance and adaptability as force multipliers in modern warfare. By mid-1944, Catalinas had firmly established themselves as indispensable assets in both the Atlantic and Pacific theaters. Their operational versatility allowed Allied commanders to maintain pressure on Axis forces across multiple domains simultaneously. While faster aircraft like the P-51 Mustang excelled in aerial combat, the Catalina excelled in endurance-based missions that required sustained vigilance over wide maritime areas. Convoy protection, reconnaissance, and search and rescue operations all benefited from its ability to remain aloft for 15 hours or more. This endurance not only increased the likelihood of detecting enemy activity, but also allowed for rapid response to emergencies, creating a level of operational predictability and flexibility that Axis forces struggled to counter. The human element in Catalina operations was critical. Pilots often flew in challenging weather conditions over open water, relying on precise navigation to maintain patrol patterns and rendezvous points. Crew members monitored engine performance and fuel consumption, ensuring that the aircraft could complete its mission and return safely. Radar operators scanned the ocean for signs of submarines or ships, while radio operators coordinated with naval vessels to relay intelligence. The success of each mission depended on flawless coordination among all crew members, who had trained extensively to respond to both routine operations and emergencies. This integration of human skill and technological capability exemplified the Catalina's effectiveness as a multi-role platform. Maintenance crews played an equally important role. The amphibious design of the Catalina meant that corrosion from saltwater exposure was a constant concern. Ground personnel implemented rigorous maintenance protocols, including hull inspections, engine checks, and corrosion prevention measures, to ensure the aircraft remained mission-ready. Fuel management was particularly critical for extended patrols. Miscalculations could result in forced sea landings far from rescue. The emphasis on preparation and maintenance highlighted how technological capability alone was insufficient. The human systems supporting the aircraft were essential to its operational success. In many ways, the Catalina represented a harmonious integration of engineering, human skill, and logistical planning. In addition to its standard reconnaissance and rescue missions, the Catalina occasionally undertook offensive tasks. Though not a fighter or heavy bomber, the aircraft could carry depth charges or light ordnance for anti-submarine and harassment operations. These limited offensive capabilities forced German U-boat commanders to adopt more cautious strategies, often remaining submerged for longer periods or altering patrol routes to avoid detection. The presence of a Catalina over critical maritime areas introduced operational uncertainty, disrupting access planning and creating opportunities for Allied naval forces to act decisively. Even the threat of engagement by a Catalina had strategic consequences, influencing enemy behavior without direct combat. The psychological impact of the Catalina on Allied personnel was profound. Sailors stranded in lifeboats or isolated on remote islands reported heightened morale upon spotting a Catalina overhead. The aircraft's presence represented hope and the assurance that rescue was imminent. Similarly, convoy commanders gained confidence knowing that extended aerial coverage provided by Catalinas reduced the risk of surprise attacks. This psychological advantage translated into tangible operational benefits. Crews were able to maintain focus, execute missions effectively, and survive in conditions that might otherwise have led to significant casualties. In contrast, German forces experienced increasing stress and uncertainty as the Catalina's persistence disrupted their operational assumptions. The Catalina's impact extended to intelligence gathering operations. Equipped with radar and skilled operators, the aircraft could detect enemy movements over vast distances, relaying information to naval and air command. This intelligence allowed Allied forces to anticipate U-boat activity, adjust convoy routes, and coordinate multi-domain responses. The ability to maintain continuous surveillance over critical areas effectively neutralized some of the advantages previously enjoyed by Axis naval forces. Commanders leveraged this intelligence to deploy surface vessels, aircraft, and escort units more efficiently, ensuring that Allied operational superiority was maintained across theaters. Technological integration played a significant role in the Catalina's effectiveness. The aircraft combined long-range fuel capacity, stable flight characteristics, and radar capabilities to create a persistent presence in critical operational areas. Radar operators interpreted electronic signals to detect submerged submarines or surface ships. Often before visual confirmation was possible, pilots used this information to adjust patrol patterns, coordinate with naval forces, and respond rapidly to threats. The synergy between technology and human expertise allowed Catalinas to operate effectively, even in adverse conditions, maximizing their operational impact. This integration exemplified how endurance, when combined with sophisticated systems, could amplify the strategic utility of relatively slow aircraft. Training protocols for Catalina crews were comprehensive and exacting. Pilots mastered navigation over featureless oceans, often using dead reckoning, celestial navigation, and emerging radio guidance systems. Radar operators learned to distinguish subtle signals, identify threats, and interpret patterns quickly. Engineers monitored engines, ensuring consistent performance during long missions. Radio operators maintained continuous communication with both naval and air command, coordinating complex operations that required precision timing and situational awareness. Crew cohesion was paramount. Successful missions depended on each member performing their role flawlessly, demonstrating that human skill was as critical as technological capability. In the Catalina's operational success, maintenance logistics were crucial in sustaining the aircraft's effectiveness. The amphibious design introduced unique challenges, particularly regarding corrosion from saltwater exposure. Ground crews performed regular inspections, hull maintenance, and engine checks to ensure reliability. Fuel management required careful planning, as long-range missions pushed the limits of operational capacity. Each successful deployment reflected meticulous preparation, disciplined maintenance, and operational coordination, highlighting the importance of comprehensive support systems in achieving strategic advantages. The Catalina's performance was a product not only of design ingenuity, but also of the human infrastructure that maintained its operational readiness. German intelligence and operational planners gradually recognized the Catalina's impact. Reports indicated that U-boat operations were constrained by the aircraft's persistent surveillance, forcing submarines to operate defensively or limit offensive actions. Surface vessels adjusted their routes to reduce exposure, often at the cost of operational efficiency. Luftwaffe pilots faced challenges in engaging slow but enduring aircraft, as interception was complicated by extended range, radar support, and coordinated Allied response. The Catalina's persistence effectively imposed operational limitations on Axis forces, demonstrating how strategic advantages could be achieved through endurance, versatility, and coordinated execution rather than raw firepower alone. The operational versatility of the Catalina underscored its strategic value. Its ability to perform reconnaissance, convoy protection, rescue operations, and limited offensive tasks within the same mission allowed Allied commanders to maximize resources. Crews adapted quickly to evolving operational demands, demonstrating skill and initiative. Each successful mission reinforced the aircraft's reputation for reliability and effectiveness, creating a psychological and operational edge over Axis forces. The Catalina's endurance, coupled with human expertise and technological integration, made it an unparalleled tool for sustaining maritime dominance and operational flexibility across multiple theaters of war. The role of the Catalina in the Pacific theater became particularly crucial. During the island-hopping campaigns, Allied forces relied heavily on intelligence regarding Japanese troop movements, naval deployments, and supply lines. Catalinas conducted long-range reconnaissance flights, often covering hundreds of miles of open ocean to gather vital information. Pilots and crew needed to navigate using dead reckoning, sun compasses, and early radio navigation aids, all while maintaining vigilance for potential enemy encounters. The aircraft's ability to remain airborne for extended periods meant that multiple reconnaissance objectives could be achieved within a single sortie, reducing the need for additional aircraft and personnel while maintaining continuous situational awareness. The amphibious capability of the Catalina allowed it to operate in areas where traditional land-based aircraft could not. Remote islands, shallow bays, and coral atolls could serve as emergency landing points, enabling the aircraft to extend its operational range even further. This feature proved invaluable during search and rescue missions for downed airmen, stranded sailors, and personnel separated from their units. The psychological effect of this capability was significant. Personnel in distress understood that a Catalina's presence could mean survival, boosting morale and confidence in allied support systems. This morale boost often translated directly into operational effectiveness, as personnel were more willing to take calculated risks, knowing that rescue was feasible. Anti-submarine warfare was one of the most critical applications of the Catalina. Equipped with radar, depth charges, and sometimes forward-looking sonars, the aircraft could detect and engage enemy submarines operating far from surface support. Pilots developed tactics to shadow enemy vessels, relay precise coordinates to naval forces, and occasionally engage with ordnance to disrupt operations. The Catalina's long loiter time allowed for persistent monitoring, making it nearly impossible for submarines to operate undetected in key areas. German U-boat commanders faced increasing operational constraints, forced to navigate cautiously and often reduce offensive activity due to the persistent threat posed by these seemingly slow yet strategically potent aircraft. The integration of intelligence and operational coordination further enhanced the Catalina's effectiveness. Data collected by Catalina crews was relayed to command centers, where it informed fleet movements, convoy routing, and strike planning. The aircraft functioned as both a sensor and a communication hub, bridging gaps between reconnaissance, naval, and air units. This multi-role capability maximized the utility of each sortie, ensuring that intelligence collection directly influenced operational decision-making. Axis forces, recognizing the extent of surveillance, adjusted strategies in ways that ultimately constrained their freedom of action and reduced their effectiveness in contested regions. Crew training was extensive and rigorous. Pilots mastered navigation techniques over open ocean, often with limited visual references and in adverse weather conditions. Radar operators learned to interpret faint signals and distinguish between surface vessels, periscopes, and natural phenomena like waves or cloud formations. Engineers monitored engine performance to ensure reliability during long missions, while radio operators coordinated with multiple units simultaneously. The interdependence of crew members demanded a high degree of trust, precision, and situational awareness. Operational success depended on the flawless execution of these skills, demonstrating the critical interplay between human expertise and technological capability in maximizing the Catalina's effectiveness. Maintenance of the Catalina required meticulous attention. The amphibious design introduced unique challenges, particularly regarding corrosion from saltwater exposure and wear on landing gear. Designed for both land and sea operations, ground crews performed regular inspections, engine maintenance, and hull treatments to preserve operational readiness. Fuel management was critical for extended missions, requiring precise calculations to ensure the aircraft could complete its objectives and return safely. This emphasis on preparation and support underscored the principle that technological capability alone was insufficient. Human systems, logistics, and maintenance were equally vital in achieving strategic impact. The strategic impact of the Catalina became apparent as Allied operations increasingly relied on its endurance and versatility. In the Atlantic, persistent patrols reduced U-boat effectiveness and safeguarded vital supply convoys. In the Pacific, reconnaissance and search and rescue missions enhanced operational planning and increased personnel survival rates. Each successful mission reinforced the aircraft's reputation as a reliable, life-saving platform, while its operational versatility allowed commanders to apply pressure across multiple domains. Simultaneously, the Catalina's endurance, combined with the skill of its crews, created a significant asymmetric advantage over Axis forces, demonstrating that strategic impact is often derived from persistence and adaptability rather than sheer speed or firepower. German forces gradually adjusted to the presence of Catalinas, but the aircraft's persistent operational tempo forced constant adaptation. U-boat commanders had to remain submerged longer and adopt more cautious patrol strategies. Surface vessels adjusted routes and timing to minimize exposure. Luftwaffe pilots faced difficulties in intercepting or tracking the aircraft, as its endurance and radar support allowed it to operate beyond typical engagement windows. This operational pressure imposed significant constraints, forcing Axis forces to expend resources defensively and limiting their ability to execute offensive operations effectively. The Catalina's strategic influence was amplified by its ability to shape enemy behavior without relying solely on direct combat engagement. The psychological effects extended to Allied personnel as well. Convoy commanders and naval personnel gained confidence from the aircraft's persistent presence, knowing that potential threats were under constant observation. Airmen flying missions over vast ocean expanses understood that rescue and reconnaissance support were available, reducing stress and increasing operational effectiveness. This psychological reassurance translated into better performance, improved decision-making, and higher survival rates during challenging operations. The Catalina exemplified how technological endurance and versatility could provide both tangible operational advantages and intangible psychological benefits. Technological integration was key to maximizing the Catalina's impact. Radar systems allowed detection of submarines and ships beyond visual range, while radio communication ensured coordination with naval and air units. Pilots and crew used this integration to adapt to evolving situations, monitor threats, and relay intelligence in real time. The aircraft's long-range fuel capacity and amphibious design complemented these systems, enabling extended operations and flexible mission execution. By combining endurance, technological sophistication, and crew expertise, the Catalina achieved operational outcomes far beyond what traditional aircraft could accomplish, illustrating the profound impact of integrated design and strategy. Operational case studies highlight the Catalina's multifaceted contributions. In one Atlantic mission, a Catalina detected multiple U-boat positions threatening a vital convoy. The crew relayed coordinates to nearby destroyers while maintaining shadowing patrols, allowing naval forces to engage and neutralize the threats. In the Pacific, a Catalina located stranded personnel on a remote island, facilitated their rescue, and provided immediate situational reports to command. These examples underscore the aircraft's adaptability, operational persistence, and ability to directly influence mission outcomes across theaters. Each successful mission reinforced the strategic and psychological advantage provided by the Catalina, establishing it as an indispensable asset in allied operations. The Catalina's influence extended beyond direct operational missions into shaping strategic planning. At the highest levels of Allied command, naval strategists recognized that the aircraft's long-range reconnaissance capabilities allowed for more flexible deployment of surface vessels, reducing unnecessary exposure to enemy submarines and surface raiders. Convoy routes could be adjusted dynamically based on real-time intelligence relayed by Catalina crews. This operational flexibility minimized losses and allowed Allied forces to maintain the flow of essential supplies, equipment, and personnel across contested maritime theaters. The aircraft's endurance enabled persistent presence, a factor that strategic planners leveraged to assert control over vast oceanic expanses. In the Pacific, Catalinas played a critical role in the island-hopping campaign, where intelligence regarding Japanese positions, naval movements, and supply chains was essential for operational success. The aircraft's ability to remain airborne for extended periods meant reconnaissance missions could cover multiple islands and patrol expansive maritime areas without interruption. Crews often encountered challenging weather conditions, navigational hazards, and the constant threat of enemy engagement. Despite these challenges, their training, combined with the aircraft's design, allowed them to gather accurate and actionable intelligence. This information informed amphibious assaults, airstrikes, and logistical operations, demonstrating the direct link between Catalina missions and strategic outcomes. One of the most remarkable applications of the Catalina was in search and rescue operations. Airmen who were shot down or forced to ditch an open ocean often owed their survival to the timely arrival of a Catalina. The aircraft's long-range capability and amphibious design allowed crews to locate and extract personnel from situations that would have otherwise been fatal. Beyond the immediate life-saving impact, these operations had profound psychological implications. Allied pilots and sailors operated with the knowledge that rescue was possible, which improved morale, increased willingness to undertake risky missions, and enhanced overall combat effectiveness. In essence, the Catalina served not only as a tool of reconnaissance and patrol, but also as a symbol of hope and security for Allied forces. The integration of radar into Catalina operations marked a significant technological advancement. Early models relied heavily on visual spotting, which limited effectiveness under poor weather or at night. The introduction of radar systems enabled crews to detect enemy submarines, ships, and even low-flying aircraft beyond visual range. This capability transformed the Catalina into a multi-dimensional surveillance platform. Radar operators learned to interpret complex signals, distinguishing between natural and man-made objects, and relay accurate information to pilots and command units. The combination of endurance, radar, and amphibious versatility ensured that Catalinas could operate continuously in diverse operational environments, providing unparalleled situational awareness. Crew training was extensive, reflecting the high demands placed on personnel operating these aircraft. Pilots had to master navigation across open ocean, often relying on celestial methods and early radio navigation aids. Radar operators were trained to identify subtle electronic signatures amidst interference. Engineers monitored complex engine systems to prevent failures during prolonged flights, while radio operators maintained continuous communication with naval and air units. The interdependence of these roles meant that crew cohesion was vital. Success depended on the flawless execution of technical skills and the ability to adapt to rapidly evolving operational conditions, emphasizing that human expertise was as critical as technological capability. Maintenance was another crucial aspect of the Catalina's operational success. The aircraft's amphibious design introduced unique challenges, including susceptibility to corrosion from saltwater exposure and wear on landing gear. Used for both land and sea operations, ground crews implemented rigorous inspection and maintenance protocols addressing engines, HULL integrity, and avionics systems. Fuel management required precise calculations to ensure long-duration missions could be completed without jeopardizing the aircraft or crew. This meticulous attention to maintenance ensured reliability and operational readiness, illustrating the critical interplay between technological design, human skill, and logistical support. The strategic impact of the Catalina became apparent as Allied operations increasingly relied on its capabilities. In the Atlantic, long-duration patrols effectively curtailed U-boat activity, safeguarding supply convoys and reducing Allied shipping losses. In the Pacific, reconnaissance and search and rescue missions directly informed operational planning, allowing commanders to execute island assaults with precision and mitigate risks to personnel. Each successful mission reinforced the aircraft's reputation for reliability, versatility, and endurance. The psychological effect of the Catalina was profound, boosting Allied morale while imposing operational constraints and uncertainty on Axis forces. German commanders and Japanese strategists gradually recognized the persistent threat posed by Catalinas, though countering their influence proved challenging. U-boat commanders in the Atlantic were forced to remain submerged longer and adopt cautious engagement strategies. Japanese naval units had to alter supply routes and maintain heightened vigilance for extended patrols. Luftwaffe and Japanese fighter pilots faced difficulties intercepting Catalinas due to their long loiter time, radar guidance, and coordinated support from naval units. The presence of these aircraft forced Axis forces into reactive positions, diverting resources to counter a threat that could strike unpredictably over vast oceanic distances. Operational versatility amplified the strategic value of the Catalina. Its ability to perform reconnaissance, convoy protection, search and rescue, and limited offensive actions allowed commanders to achieve multiple objectives within a single mission. Crews demonstrated adaptability and initiative, responding to evolving threats and conditions with efficiency and skill. Each successful mission reinforced the aircraft's credibility as a reliable, life-saving platform. Its endurance and operational flexibility made the Catalina a cornerstone of maritime strategy, enabling persistent pressure on enemy forces while enhancing the effectiveness and morale of Allied personnel. The aircraft's contribution to intelligence operations cannot be overstated. Radar-equipped Catalinas provided continuous monitoring of enemy movements, relaying actionable data to command units. This intelligence allowed naval forces to anticipate U-boat attacks, adjust convoy routes, and coordinate multi-domain responses. The integration of reconnaissance, communication, and operational execution created a force multiplier effect. Allied commanders could act decisively based on accurate, real-time information, while Axis forces struggled to operate effectively under constant surveillance. This integration of technology, human skill, and strategic planning highlighted the Catalina's enduring value as a multi-role platform, capable of shaping operational environments in combat scenarios. Catalinas occasionally undertook offensive roles. While not designed as fighters, they could carry depth charges, bombs, or other ordnance for anti-submarine or harassment missions. These offensive capabilities, combined with persistent presence and radar guidance, forced enemy commanders to adopt more conservative strategies, reducing their operational effectiveness. Even the mere threat of Catalina engagement had strategic consequences, shaping enemy behavior without requiring direct confrontation. This ability to influence operational decisions through presence and persistence exemplified the aircraft's asymmetric advantage, where endurance and versatility outweighed traditional measures of speed and firepower. The Catalina's legacy extended beyond wartime operations into post-war naval strategy and aviation design. Lessons learned regarding endurance, multi-role capability, and integrated human technology systems influenced the development of subsequent maritime patrol aircraft. The aircraft demonstrated that persistent surveillance, operational flexibility, and crew expertise could achieve strategic effects disproportionate to the platform's raw performance metrics. This principle has endured in modern military aviation, where long-endurance platforms equipped with advanced sensors continue to play critical roles in maritime dominance, reconnaissance, and search and rescue operations. The Catalina's impact on Allied operations was magnified by the interconnectivity between intelligence, logistics, and operational execution. Data collected during reconnaissance missions allowed fleet commanders to make informed decisions about troop movements, convoy scheduling, and strike planning. The aircraft's endurance meant that patrols could be maintained over critical areas continuously, creating a form of persistent surveillance that Axis forces could not easily evade. This integration of reconnaissance and operational execution provided a strategic advantage, far greater than the sum of individual missions, demonstrating that endurance and adaptability could redefine the balance of power across theaters. Crew coordination remained a defining feature of the Catalina's operational success. Each mission required seamless collaboration among pilots, engineers, radar operators, and radio operators. Pilots navigated vast expanses of open ocean, often under adverse weather conditions, while engineers monitored engine performance to prevent mechanical failures during extended sorties. Radar operators identified potential threats and relayed critical information to pilots, while radio operators coordinated with command and nearby units. This interdependent system of skills emphasized that technological capability alone could not ensure mission success. Human expertise and coordination were essential to harness the aircraft's full potential. Search and rescue missions showcased the aircraft's versatility and humanitarian impact. Downed airmen, shipwrecked sailors, and stranded personnel owed their survival to the timely intervention of Catalina crews. These operations demanded precise navigation, endurance, and adaptability, often requiring crews to locate individuals in vast, featureless oceanic areas. The aircraft's amphibious design allowed it to land on water, providing immediate extraction and medical assistance. Beyond the immediate life-saving effects, these missions reinforced morale across allied forces, instilling confidence that support was available even in the most remote and dangerous environments. Radar integration transformed the Catalina into a sophisticated surveillance platform. Initially reliant on visual spotting, crews were increasingly equipped with radar to detect enemy vessels, submarines, and aircraft beyond visual range. Interpreting radar signals required specialized training, as operators needed to distinguish between natural phenomena and genuine threats. Accurate radar interpretation allowed pilots to make informed tactical decisions, relay actionable intelligence, and maintain operational superiority over enemy forces. The synergy of endurance, radar, and amphibious capability enabled continuous monitoring of critical areas, ensuring that Catalinas could influence strategic outcomes even without direct engagement. The maintenance of Catalinas demanded meticulous attention due to the aircraft's amphibious design. Exposure to salt water accelerated corrosion, while dual-mode landing gear required careful inspection and upkeep. Ground crews performed routine checks on engines, hull integrity, avionics, and fuel systems, ensuring that aircraft remained mission-ready. Fuel management was crucial for extended missions, necessitating precise calculations to prevent operational failures. The emphasis on preparation and support highlighted the broader principle that technological innovation must be paired with robust logistical systems and skilled personnel to achieve strategic impact. Effectively, Catalinas was central to anti-submarine operations, particularly in the Atlantic theater, equipped with radar, depth charges, and occasionally sonar. The aircraft could detect and engage U-boats operating far from surface support. Pilots and crew developed tactics to shadow enemy submarines, relay precise coordinates to naval forces, and engage directly when necessary. The aircraft's ability to loiter for extended periods ensured continuous monitoring, reducing the effectiveness of enemy operations. U-boat commanders were forced to adapt, remaining submerged longer, adjusting patrol strategies, and operating with heightened caution to avoid detection, demonstrating the Catalina's strategic influence beyond direct combat. Operational versatility enhanced the aircraft's strategic value across multiple theaters. In the Pacific, Catalinas performed reconnaissance, convoy protection, and search and rescue, often within the same mission. Crews adapted to evolving threats, demonstrating initiative and skill in dynamic operational environments. This flexibility allowed commanders to achieve multiple objectives simultaneously, reinforcing the aircraft's reputation for reliability and effectiveness. The Catalina's endurance enabled persistent presence, which not only disrupted enemy operations, but also strengthened Allied confidence and decision-making capabilities, illustrating the symbiotic relationship between technology and human expertise. Psychological effects of Catalina operations were profound for both Allied and Axis forces. Allied personnel gained confidence from the aircraft's persistent presence, knowing that reconnaissance, rescue, and support capabilities were available. This assurance improved morale, encouraged calculated risk-taking, and enhanced overall operational performance. Conversely, Axis forces experienced heightened uncertainty, constrained operational freedom, and the constant pressure of being monitored by long-endurance patrols. The psychological dimension of Catalina operations amplified its strategic impact, demonstrating that operational effectiveness often extends beyond physical engagement to influence perception, decision-making, and morale. The aircraft's adaptability extended to offensive operations in limited capacities. While primarily designed for reconnaissance and patrol, Catalinas occasionally carried bombs, depth charges, or other ordnance for anti-submarine and harassment missions. These offensive capabilities forced enemy commanders to adopt more conservative strategies, diverting resources to mitigate potential threats. Even without direct confrontation, the persistent threat posed by Catalinas influenced operational decisions, exemplifying the concept of asymmetric advantage, where endurance, versatility, and intelligence gathering could shape enemy behavior more effectively than raw firepower alone. Operational case studies highlight the multifaceted contributions of the Catalina. In one Atlantic mission, a Catalina identified multiple U-boat positions threatening a vital convoy. The crew shadowed the submarines, relaying coordinates to destroyers and facilitating successful neutralization of the threat. In the Pacific, a Catalina located personnel stranded on a remote island, coordinating rescue while providing real-time updates to command. These missions exemplified the aircraft's combination of endurance, adaptability, and human expertise. Each success reinforced the strategic value of the Catalina, establishing it as a critical component of Allied operational planning and execution across theaters. Strategic lessons derived from Catalina operations informed post-war military aviation and naval planning. Long-range, multi-role platforms capable of continuous surveillance became essential assets, emphasizing endurance, adaptability, and integrated human technology systems. The experience demonstrated that operational effectiveness is not solely dependent on speed or firepower. Persistence, versatility, and crew skill can yield disproportionate strategic advantages. This principle has endured into modern military doctrine, influencing the design and deployment of maritime patrol aircraft, search and rescue platforms, and reconnaissance systems. The Catalina's legacy is thus evident not only in historical outcomes, but also in contemporary strategic thinking. The enduring legacy of the Catalina is closely tied to the human stories behind each mission. While the aircraft's technical specifications, long-range endurance, amphibious capability, and radar integration defined its operational potential, it was the courage, skill, and resilience of its crews that transformed potential into action. Pilots navigated vast expanses of open ocean, often under extreme weather conditions, relying on celestial navigation, early radio aids, and sheer instinct. Radar operators interpreted signals that could mean the difference between safety and disaster. Engineers ensured that engines ran optimally during long flights, while radio operators maintained vital communication links. Every mission was a testament to teamwork and the human capacity to push boundaries, highlighting the symbiotic relationship between man and machine. The psychological dimension of Catalina operations cannot be overstated. Allied airmen and sailors operated with the confidence that support was available, even in the most perilous situations. The presence of Catalinas provided a safety net, which allowed combatants to undertake missions with greater audacity, knowing that search and rescue or intelligence coverage could mitigate risks. Conversely, Axis forces faced a relentless operational pressure. U-boat commanders, Japanese naval units, and Luftwaffe pilots encountered persistent surveillance and unpredictable intervention, creating a state of constant vigilance. This psychological effect amplified the operational impact of the Catalina, demonstrating that strategic advantages often extend beyond physical performance into the realm of perception and morale. Maintenance protocols for Catalinas were rigorous, reflecting the complexity and demands of the aircraft. Saltwater exposure accelerated corrosion, particularly around the hull and amphibious landing gear. Engine performance required continuous monitoring to prevent catastrophic failures. During long-duration missions, ground crews performed regular inspections of structural integrity, avionics, and fuel systems, ensuring mission readiness. Fuel management was critical. Crews calculated consumption meticulously to ensure the aircraft could complete extended sorties without jeopardizing safety. This attention to detail underscored the essential link between technology, logistics, and operational success, illustrating that superior performance is sustained by disciplined support structures as much as by engineering excellence. The versatility of Catalinas allowed for a wide range of operational roles, further enhancing their strategic value. In addition to reconnaissance and patrol, the aircraft conducted convoy protection, search and rescue, limited offensive operations, and intelligence collection. Crews adapted to evolving threats, demonstrating initiative and skill in dynamic environments. This flexibility allowed commanders to achieve multiple objectives with minimal resources, reinforcing the aircraft's reputation as a reliable and effective platform. Its endurance enabled continuous presence over critical areas, disrupting enemy operations while bolstering Allied confidence and operational decision-making. In this way, the Catalina exemplified the principle that adaptability multiplies strategic impact. One of the most celebrated applications of the Catalina was its contribution to anti-submarine warfare in the Atlantic. Equipped with radar, depth charges, and, occasionally, sonar, the aircraft could detect and engage enemy submarines operating far from surface support. Pilots developed tactics to shadow U-boats, relay precise coordinates to destroyers, and engage directly when necessary. The ability to loiter over threat zones for extended periods ensured persistent monitoring, significantly reducing the effectiveness of enemy operations. U-boat commanders were forced to remain submerged longer, adjust patrol strategies, and operate with heightened caution, illustrating how the Catalina's endurance and surveillance capabilities could shape operational behavior without direct confrontation. In the Pacific theater, Catalinas were equally transformative. Reconnaissance missions covered vast maritime areas, providing critical intelligence on Japanese positions, naval movements, and supply lines. Search and rescue operations recovered airmen and sailors from remote locations, often in challenging conditions. The aircraft's amphibious design enabled water landings, delivering immediate assistance where traditional aircraft could not. This capability extended beyond tactical advantage. It fostered a sense of security and resilience among Allied forces. The psychological reassurance of rescue potential encouraged daring missions and enhanced overall operational effectiveness, underscoring the interplay between technological capability and human confidence. Technological integration played a critical role in enhancing the Catalina's operational impact. Radar systems allowed crews to detect enemy vessels, aircraft, and submarines beyond visual range. Even in poor weather or at night, operators learned to interpret complex signals, distinguishing between natural phenomena and genuine threats. This intelligence was relayed to pilots and command units, enabling informed tactical decisions. The combination of endurance, radar, and amphibious versatility transformed the Catalina into a multi-dimensional platform capable of sustained surveillance, precise coordination, and rapid response, illustrating how technology amplifies human capability in operational contexts. The psychological effect on enemy forces was substantial. Persistent Catalina patrols imposed operational constraints on Axis commanders, forcing them to adopt defensive strategies and remain in constant alert. U-boat captains, Luftwaffe pilots, and Japanese naval units faced uncertainty about when and where the next Catalina might appear. This omnipresent threat limited their operational flexibility, constrained strategic decision-making, and increased the likelihood of mistakes. The aircraft's endurance and unpredictability created a form of asymmetric pressure, demonstrating that persistence and versatility can be as impactful as direct engagement. In achieving strategic objectives, operational success relied on meticulous planning and coordination. Commanders used intelligence from Catalinas to optimize convoy routes, amphibious operations, and naval engagements. Missions were carefully designed to maximize coverage, minimize risk, and ensure continuity of surveillance. Crews were trained to operate independently, yet remain integrated within broader operational frameworks. The aircraft's ability to remain airborne for extended periods allowed for sustained presence over critical areas, ensuring that intelligence, reconnaissance, and search and rescue capabilities could be applied with precision and consistency. This combination of planning, technology, and human skill exemplified effective operational integration. The offensive applications of Catalinas, though limited, further enhanced their strategic influence. Equipped with depth charges, bombs, or ordnance for harassment missions, the aircraft forced enemy commanders to adjust operational behavior, divert resources, and adopt conservative strategies. Even the threat of engagement had tangible effects, demonstrating the power of psychological and operational influence beyond physical combat. By shaping enemy decision-making through presence, endurance, and the potential for action, Catalinas exerted a disproportionate strategic impact relative to their size and armament, illustrating the concept of asymmetric advantage in military operations. Historical records provide numerous examples of the Catalina's operational effectiveness. In the Atlantic, aircraft identified and relayed U-boat positions, enabling Allied forces to neutralize threats before they could inflict significant losses. In the Pacific, the aircraft located stranded personnel, coordinated rescues, and delivered real-time intelligence for operational planning. Each mission exemplified the integration of endurance, adaptability, and human expertise, reinforcing the Catalina's role as a critical enabler of strategic outcomes. The aircraft's performance demonstrated that persistence, versatility, and coordination could achieve effects disproportionate to conventional measures of power, such as speed or armament. Post-war analysis confirmed the lasting impact of Catalina operations. Long endurance, multi-role platforms capable of continuous surveillance became essential in military doctrine, emphasizing the value of adaptability, human technology integration, and persistent presence. The Catalina demonstrated that strategic advantage often stems not from raw performance metrics, but from the effective application of endurance, versatility, and crew skill. Modern maritime patrol, reconnaissance, and search and rescue aircraft continue to draw lessons from the operational principles established by Catalina crews, reflecting a legacy that extends beyond historical outcomes into contemporary strategic thinking and aviation design. The final phases of the Catalina's wartime service underscored its enduring significance and adaptability. As the war progressed, missions became increasingly complex, integrating multiple objectives such as reconnaissance, convoy escort, search and rescue, and limited offensive engagement into single sorties. Crews adapted to shifting operational requirements with remarkable skill, leveraging the aircraft's endurance and amphibious capability to maintain pressure on enemy forces. The ability to operate across diverse theaters Atlantic, Pacific, Mediterranean demonstrated that strategic value was derived not only from technological innovation, but from versatility, human initiative, and effective coordination between air, naval, and command elements. In the Pacific, Catalinas was central to island-hopping campaigns, providing reconnaissance of Japanese positions and supporting amphibious landings. Crews identified enemy fortifications, troop movements, and supply lines, allowing commanders to plan operations with precision and reduced risk. The aircraft's long-range capability meant that remote islands could be monitored continuously, providing intelligence that was critical for operational success. Search and rescue operations further amplified this impact, recovering downed pilots and stranded personnel while maintaining morale and operational momentum. Each mission reinforced the aircraft's dual utility as both a tactical and psychological asset, demonstrating that endurance and adaptability could yield substantial advantages. In diverse operational contexts, the technological innovations of the Catalina were matched by the ingenuity of its crews. Pilots developed tactics for long-duration navigation, often in uncharted or poorly mapped areas, relying on celestial navigation, dead reckoning, and rudimentary radio aids. Radar operators refined interpretation techniques to distinguish genuine threats from environmental interference, while engineers monitored engine performance under extreme conditions. Radio operators maintained constant communication with command and other units, relaying actionable intelligence in real time. This human-technology synergy ensured that the aircraft's capabilities were fully realized, transforming technical potential into operational impact across theaters of war. Maintenance and logistics remained a critical component of the Catalina's operational effectiveness. Saltwater exposure posed corrosion risks to the hull and amphibious landing gear, requiring meticulous inspection and repair. Engine monitoring and fuel management were vital to prevent failures during extended missions. Ground crews performed regular checks on avionics, structural integrity, and fuel systems, ensuring that aircraft remained mission-ready. The coordination between maintenance, logistics, and operational planning underscored a central lesson. Technological innovation must be supported by robust infrastructure and skilled personnel to achieve sustainable strategic advantage. Without disciplined support, even the most capable aircraft would be limited in its impact. The psychological influence of the Catalina extended beyond operational outcomes. Allied forces gained confidence from the aircraft's persistent presence and versatile capabilities. Pilots and sailors operated with the assurance that reconnaissance, rescue, and intelligence support were accessible even in remote or hostile environments. This confidence encouraged calculated risk-taking, improved operational effectiveness, and enhanced morale. Conversely, Axis forces faced constant pressure, operating under uncertainty about when or where a Catalina might appear. The aircraft's endurance and unpredictability imposed constraints on enemy operations, reducing flexibility and increasing the likelihood of mistakes. This strategic effect illustrates the profound interplay between technology, human skill, and psychological influence. Anti-submarine operations remained a cornerstone of Catalina missions, particularly in the Atlantic. Equipped with radar, depth charges, and occasionally sonar, the aircraft could detect and engage enemy submarines operating far from surface support. pilots developed techniques to shadow U-boats, relay coordinates to destroyers, and, when necessary, engage directly. The ability to remain on station for extended periods ensured persistent monitoring and reduced enemy operational effectiveness. U-boat commanders were forced to adapt, staying submerged longer and altering patrol patterns to avoid detection. These adaptations illustrate how technological endurance and tactical innovation could impose strategic limitations on the enemy. Without direct confrontation, offensive capabilities, though secondary, further enhanced the Catalina's value. Aircraft equipped with bombs or depth charges could disrupt enemy operations, forcing adversaries to divert resources and adopt more cautious strategies. Even the mere potential for engagement shaped enemy behavior, demonstrating that strategic influence is often achieved through presence and threat perception, rather than direct combat. This principle of asymmetric advantage, where persistence, adaptability, and intelligence shape outcomes, was embodied in the Catalina's operational philosophy, reinforcing its significance across multiple theaters of war. Historical examples highlight the effectiveness of the Catalina in complex operations. In the Pacific, aircraft identified Japanese positions, coordinated amphibious assaults, and conducted search and rescue operations simultaneously. In the Atlantic, Catalinas located U-boat positions, relayed critical intelligence, and shadowed submarines until surface forces could engage. Each mission exemplified the integration of endurance, adaptability, and human expertise, reinforcing the aircraft's role as a force multiplier. Its performance demonstrated that sustained presence, versatile capability, and coordinated action could produce strategic effects, far exceeding traditional measures of firepower or speed. The impact of the Catalina extended into post-war military doctrine. Its operational principles: endurance, versatility, integration of human skill and technology, and persistent surveillance shaped the development of long-range maritime patrol aircraft, reconnaissance systems, and search and rescue platforms. The aircraft illustrated that technological superiority is most effective when combined with adaptable tactics, skilled personnel, and robust logistical support. Modern military aviation continues to draw lessons from Catalina operations, particularly in the design of multi-role platforms capable of continuous monitoring, rapid response, and mission adaptability, reflecting the enduring influence of wartime experience on contemporary strategic thinking. Catalina operations also underscored the importance of inter-service coordination. Intelligence gathered from reconnaissance missions informed naval operations, amphibious assaults, and strategic planning. Communication between air, naval, and ground units ensured that actionable information was promptly translated into operational action. Crews operated as part of a larger strategic ecosystem, highlighting the interconnected nature of modern warfare. The aircraft's endurance and adaptability made it a critical node within this network, providing persistent surveillance, facilitating decision-making, and enabling timely interventions that could alter the course of operations. The human element remained central to operational success. Pilots navigated challenging conditions over vast stretches of ocean. Engineers maintained engine reliability under sustained use, Radar operators interpreted critical signals, and radio operators coordinated communication across units. Every mission required discipline, ingenuity, and teamwork, demonstrating that technology alone could not achieve strategic objectives. The Catalina's effectiveness was amplified by the skill, courage, and initiative of its crews, underscoring a timeless principle. Human expertise is the ultimate multiplier of technological capability in operational contexts. As the war drew to a close, the Catalina's operational record stood as a testament to the convergence of technology, human skill, and strategic vision. The aircraft had not only survived the intense demands of global conflict, but had excelled in roles ranging from reconnaissance and anti-submarine warfare to search and rescue and convoy protection. Its amphibious capabilities, long-range endurance, and radar integration ensured that Allied forces could maintain persistent presence in critical theaters, shaping the operational environment to their advantage. The psychological impact of these capabilities, confidence among Allied forces, and constant pressure on adversaries highlighted that victory often depends as much on perception and adaptability as on raw firepower. The lessons drawn from Catalina operations extend beyond historical analysis into broader principles of warfare. First, versatility multiplies effectiveness. A single platform capable of fulfilling multiple roles reduces logistical complexity, optimizes resource utilization, and enables commanders to respond dynamically to evolving threats. The Catalina demonstrated this principle consistently, seamlessly transitioning between reconnaissance, offensive action, and humanitarian missions. Second, endurance matters. Persistent presence in contested areas can exert strategic pressure disproportionate to the platform's size or armament. Long-duration sorties allowed continuous intelligence gathering, real-time intervention, and reliable search and rescue, forcing adversaries to operate cautiously and under constant threat. Third, human expertise is indispensable. The aircraft's capabilities alone were insufficient without skilled pilots, engineers, radar operators, and radio technicians. Crew coordination, initiative, and problem-solving under pressure transformed technological potential into operational advantage. Each mission demanded careful planning, meticulous execution, and adaptive decision-making, illustrating that the human element remains the ultimate force multiplier in any conflict. Fourth, logistical and maintenance support underpins sustainable operational success. Saltwater exposure, engine wear, and system maintenance required disciplined procedures and robust supply chains. Without such infrastructure, even the most advanced aircraft would have been rendered ineffective in prolonged operations. The Catalina also exemplified the principle of asymmetric advantage. Its endurance, versatility, and persistent presence allowed it to exert influence far beyond its direct combat capabilities. Enemy forces adjusted strategies, altered patrol patterns, and constrained operational flexibility, often without ever engaging the aircraft directly. This principle, leveraging presence and capability to shape adversary behavior, remains a cornerstone of strategic planning in modern military doctrine. In essence, the Catalina's value lay not only in what it could do, but in how its capabilities compelled opponents to react defensively, often limiting their own effectiveness. Across the Atlantic and Pacific theaters, Catalinas enabled crucial operational successes. In the Atlantic, persistent patrols disrupted U-boat operations, safeguarded convoys, and coordinated with naval assets to neutralize threats before they could inflict significant damage. In the Pacific, reconnaissance and intelligence collection informed amphibious assaults, identified supply lines, and supported air and naval campaigns across vast distances. Search and rescue missions recovered countless personnel, bolstering morale and sustaining operational momentum. Each example reinforced the aircraft's multifaceted value, illustrating that sustained, adaptable, and coordinated operations could achieve results exceeding traditional measures of military strength. Technological innovation remained intertwined with operational strategy throughout the Catalina's service. Radar systems extended detection capabilities beyond visual range, enabling night operations and weather-independent surveillance. Engine reliability and fuel management facilitated extended missions, allowing aircraft to remain on station for critical durations. The amphibious hull design enabled flexibility in landing zones, providing immediate response capabilities in otherwise inaccessible areas. These innovations, combined with crew expertise and rigorous planning, ensured that the Catalina remained operationally relevant and strategically significant throughout the war. Even as enemy capabilities evolved, the human stories behind Catalina missions further underscore its legacy. Pilots navigating thousands of miles over open ocean relied on a combination of training, instinct, and endurance. Crews performed rescues in treacherous conditions, often facing storms, enemy fire, and mechanical challenges. Engineers and maintenance teams worked tirelessly to ensure aircraft readiness, sometimes improvising solutions under field conditions. Radio and radar operators interpreted data in real time, guiding operational decisions that could determine life or death outcomes. Each mission exemplified the integration of human skill and technology, demonstrating that effective warfare requires more than hardware. It demands people capable of leveraging the hardware under pressure. Post-war analysis cemented the Catalina's influence on aviation and military doctrine. The principles demonstrated versatility, endurance, technological human integration, and persistent presence remain relevant in contemporary air and naval operations. Modern maritime patrol, reconnaissance, and search and rescue aircraft draw on lessons established by the Catalina, emphasizing long-duration capability, multi-role flexibility, and integration with broader operational frameworks. The aircraft's operational philosophy highlights enduring truths, adaptability, coordinated effort, and sustained presence can decisively shape outcomes, often with efficiency surpassing brute force alone. Finally, the Catalina's legacy extends beyond operational metrics to its symbolic and psychological impact. It represented the ingenuity, resilience, and strategic foresight of allied forces. Crews relied on its capabilities to achieve daring missions. Commanders leveraged it to maintain operational control. Adversaries were constrained by its persistent presence. The aircraft's service illustrates that technology, when integrated with human skill, strategic vision, and robust support, can exert influence far beyond its immediate physical performance. Its purple-dyed hull, long-range endurance, and amphibious versatility were more than technical features. They were instruments of operational confidence, morale, and strategic leverage. In summary, the Catalina's service during World War II exemplifies the intersection of innovation, human skill, and strategic insight. Its amphibious design, long endurance, radar integration, and versatile operational capability transformed it from a subject of ridicule into a critical instrument of Allied success. Crew expertise, rigorous maintenance, and logistical support ensured sustained effectiveness across multiple theaters, while persistent operational presence imposed constraints and exerted psychological pressure on adversaries. The aircraft's legacy, reflected in both historical outcomes and contemporary doctrine, underscores the enduring value of adaptability, coordination, and persistent strategic influence. By combining technology with human capability, the Catalina exemplified how innovative design and operational foresight can achieve decisive outcomes in complex, global conflict environments.